run a lean government of not more than 60 ministers. Are they on course, or is early days yet?
Oh, as promised by the president, if you go by this, then I can say he's on course. But if he goes away from it, then he will not be on course. For now, for all intents and purposes, though it's early days yet, we have seen a reduction of the ministry and some realignment and the rest of them. It's a feather in a cap, but we want to get to its logical conclusion where we see ministers, as I said, 60. But I have a contrary. Even though the president has promised 60, I believe that it can be done with 19 minutes if we are serious about ensuring that the affairs of the state is, rightly handled. And so
you say that the work can be done by 19?
Yes, and permit me to explain to you how it can be done. If you read the Constitution, you are familiar with the provisions in the Constitution. It says that cabinets, the lower ceiling for cabinet is 10 and upper ceiling is 19. Let us remember that cabinet is that small group of senior most ministers who take decisions with the chief executive, the president, for instance, and for the state. So when we talk about any important issue, it is not about any ordinary minister or a deputy minister. It is what? The minister. And the law also says that you need 16 ministries, 16 regional ministers, right? And then I am proposing 19. So what it means is that 16 you have 16 persons, one will double as a regional minister and a minister of state. So that person wears two hats, a regional minister and minister of state. So that takes you at 16. And then you'll be left with 3 ministries more. Give it to the bigger ministries. There are ministries whose responsibility and order put them in the category of a big ministry. And they include Ministry of Education, Interior, and one of them. So then there you allow one person to be there and then be responsible for it without any deputy minister whatsoever. So you have this type of structure. You are good to go. All that you need is the bureaucrats to support in the discharge of the duties of these ministers. Remember that the real work, the real state work is done by the bureaucrats. And they are already there. They support the ministers to discharge. So even though the president has said it's a reduction. If you look at the previous government, the reduction. But if we really want to reduce it more, I believe 19 will suffice.
Now, beyond the realignment or the reduction of the ministries as well, one other thing is in connection with feeding at the various senior high schools. It's been one of the topical issues after the CHAS asked parents to support the feeding of their children by letting them bring food when they are coming to school. Yesterday at the Thanksgiving service, the president did say that he had directed the Chief Justice, the Chief of Staff, to work to work with the GES to get or facilitate the movement of food to the various senior high schools from Tema in some warehouses. These foods were imported to deal with the drought situation, but he says it's an emergency, and so this should be looked at quickly so that the children will have food to eat. What do you say to that?
Yeah, this is an interim measure which he has taken, fine. But if we want medium to long term, particularly long term, then the approach has to be different. What is my approach if I'm in this position? My approach will be in that we want to make sure that there's constant supply of food to the school at all times. So what do? Bring back the school gardening system. When you and I were in school, there were gardens. School gardens were operating, right? We're developing our own garden and all that. So you see a school where the land is suitable for production of, say, yam, for instance. You encourage them to produce other crops there. In addition, you box the whole work with what? animal husbandry, fish, chicken, and the rest of them. And then the students are made part and parcel of the work there as part of their curriculum, where they go and then go and collect eggs, go and clean the. It's part of the training that will equip them with certain skills. If after school some people want to engage in agriculture, it's fine, they take good notes of that. And so once you do that, the school will be able to generate a lot of resources from this when they sell their produce to the public and generate ideas, and also will support the school. The school will have food, will have what? Fish, chicken, and all those products. And at the end of the day, government will not even come there. Yes, those places where they produce certain crops that others do not, they exchange. And then, they go away. These are very simple things. And then the little support the state can give in the interim, the state will be able to do that. Then they take, the schools will be on their own. That is how we do it. And I believe that is the way forward.
Doc, just a quick intervention. The president did say that this is a stopgap measure as they prepare to have that roundtable conversation about the sustainable means of keeping the free SHS program and addressing the challenges. So with regard to the distribution of the food, it is a stopgap measure to the current situation.
Yeah, I accept that. And that's why in my intro, I did indicate that there's an interim measure, right? And that's for, if you want medium to long term, one of the means by which you can address the problem is what I have alluded to earlier on. Other means, other ideas can come in to help us, but I think there is always a way out. This problem is not bad. Let us remember that in spite of the challenges associated with free SHS and all that, it's a good program by all standards and all that. And it has been able, the government was able to implement it in spite of the difficulties, separate it to the level that we have here. It's a thumbs up for government, the previous government. There's no doubt about it. What we need to do is to strengthen its frontiers and let it work, which the current president has promised to do. So, all hands, I am happy that you want to involve stakeholders. I am always delighted when I hear people talk about stakeholder participation, because that is where solutions are. You have fine brains who will come and sit down, proffer ideas, give and take, decision is reached, and it's accepted by all. So that when that policy is being challenged, those who supported the policy will come to the rescue of the program. And that means that the program will stand the test of time. I always believe in stakeholder approach to issues. So I am happy that the President, President Mahama, wants to use the stakeholder approach to are dealing with it. And this is in tune with good governance principles.
Now, one of the very topical issues as well, the National Cathedral Project. The President did say that they were going to go ahead with the investigation, as Sraj had said in their report, and also perhaps, not perhaps, there will be a reconsideration in terms of the costs to put up the cathedral, and in that reconsideration there could be, there may be a change for the site of the project. What do you have to say in relation to that as well? Knowing how the issue in relation to the cathedral is very dear to most Ghanaians.
I believe that the call to get what has gone wrong relative to the cathedral is appropriate. It must be carried through a non-legal process, so that at the end of the day we get to the bottom. Thank God Sraj has begun the process. The state can run with it, and then for us to get to the bottom as to whether we'll be able to ensure value for money. And then once we get there, other thing of whether to continue and all that will be a secondary conversation. But for me, what my ultimate interest is, when there was a value for money, and then we'll move on. Because in government, if you don't make use of, accountability principles, people will always take the stage for a ride. I am not in any way suggesting that, yes, there were wrongdoing and all that. That is prejudicial. But I'm saying that if you really want to get to the bottom, you investigate, value for money audit and the rest of them. Then at the end of the day, you can arrive at a decision that everybody will look at it and said, yes, this is what it ought to be.
Would you also support a change in the site?
So I'm not a technical officer, so that one, things about technicalities, I'll leave it to technical people. When they get there, let them decide what they want to do and at what point, at what side do they want to put that structure. That's purely technical, and I'm sorry, I have no knowledge of that.
That's okay. Now, the last time I spoke to you, you did say that, for instance, one of the key promises that was made on the campaign trail was to scrap the E-Levy, which a good number of Ghanaians seemingly supported. But you held the view that this is a good source of revenue, and so you would want that the tax is kept to help us show up our revenue base. But, a good number of people have said that, why now? Why wasn't this ever said on the campaign trail?
Now, thanks for the opportunity. There are people who are out there on social media criticizing and attacking me. And I realize that in this country, it's very easy to jump to the fray and make, criticisms and all that. Criticisms are good. It's part of governance process. Without it, every government structure will grind to a halt. But you see, you do that on the basis of what information and what the right information. My views on E-Levy are clear. If you Google my name, I saw something in E-Levy, it's all over. So I was surprised that people were saying that I was against E-Levy when the Nakufado government was in office. I have said, and I'll repeat here, that I will forever support E-Levy, because it is one of the hanging fruits of government to raise revenue and run its affairs with. Because as a student of politics, I know that if you're talking about state capacity, one of it is the extractive capacity, that the state must have opportunity to what? Generate enough revenue to run its own affairs than we going around with capping and looking for resources and all that. No. So my position has been that sometimes the tax burden on it is what puts people off and make life difficult. So when we're discussing E-Levy, the argument was that the government was putting in, I remember, 1.5%. And then there was a whole lot of noise. While some people were saying, take it completely off. Others were saying, reduce it. And I was part of that school of thought that believed that, yes, the tax is good, but if it can be made, accessible so that everybody can pay. Because that time, economists and other financial scholars have said that 1% would be. So I rooted for 1%. And then eventually it came to 1%. And I remember, I was on Twitter from Kukuku. I'm Mr. will bear witness to it. And I said that I support that call. I support that 1% reduction of putting the E-Levy at 1%. I support that. And I'm going to back the president like a witch, So I was surprised that some people who have no records to research have joined onto them. They're free and have left and right. What they should know is that they are what including themselves. The facts are out there. If they really just Google my E-Levy and they see my vote and they are clear. So what they are doing is much of hypocrisy, and then they are ill-informed and they have little knowledge in regards to these issues. My position will not change. I support it. That's my call. But if the president decides to scrap it, fine. I'm an ordinary Ghanaian, which I have the right to speak my mind. And my position on E-Levy has not changed.
I mean, in response to that, some have said that if the government should go ahead to scrap the E-Levy, it would amount to David reneging on a promise they made to the people. A promise that perhaps a good number of people voted, based their vote on. And so it will be in bad faith. There was mark of bad faith if the administration fails to scrap the E-Levy like it promised.
I have as an ordinary Ghanaian. And remember, let me put it in the youth language. My mouth will be gone. It's the president who will decide as to what we want to do with it. But I'm an ordinary Ghanaian out of the 61 million Ghanaians. I'm just a tiny entity in there, and that's my view. Because I have supported the MPP administration on the call for E-Levy, and I defended it. Those who care must Google and find out the Peter Farm, the Joy Farm on February 22nd. I had a conversation with my good friend Akapo and the rest. The stories are there. So if you want to be mischief, it's their own problem. But for me, states must find a means of generating revenue. And it doesn't matter which government is in office. I will continue to maintain this position so that activity, attitude where we are always with a cap in hand, group trotting, looking for resources to fund our internal programs. It will be a thing of the past. And for me, that is in line with the capacity principle. So, education, I am always in support, but the magnitude, the level of the burden is always what I argue for, and my position will never change in spite of the ugly noises out there.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure talking to you, sir. Yeah, let's speak to Dr. Asa Asante. The latter part, our connection was quite was deteriorating, so we couldn't hear clearly. But the substance of it we have heard. It's still the morning.